Magnus, who is representing Belgium. Jack Young, although he's a Northern Irishman, he's representing Ireland, and he's been a race winner here in the International Clio Grand Prix Sport race a few years ago. And the likes of Tom Coronel, who seems to know everywhere. There are others, like Chris Smiley, representing United Kingdom, that doesn't know the circuit at all. So this is a step into the unknown for him. The pit lane emptying, and yesterday in free practice one, it was Gilles Magnus for Belgium, who was the fastest, 2 minutes 13 in his Audi RS3. All of these cars run to the international TCR regulation. And so, unlike, for example, F4, this is a similar concept to what we had in GT3, as in there are different brands available. So you've got the likes of Audi, you've got Cupra, you've got Honda and Peugeot all on this grid. 18 nations represented, and a real mix of drivers as well. And this is going to be fascinating, John Watson.
And of course, they're all front-wheel drive. An anathema to me, a racing car I've always felt should have a rear-wheel drive, but the nature of touring cars across the world has all gone in favour. And I know there are some rear-wheel drive touring cars, but the predominance of the formula is all about front-wheel drive touring cars, and they are entertaining.
Oh, absolutely.
With a capital E.
Indeed. And this, I think, is going to be absolutely the same when we get to racing. We've got free practice 2, we've got qualifying to get through first of all, but it gives us a chance to see some of the different drivers representing their nations. You're looking at Norway's Didrik Esbjerg here. He's 10th in this year's Scandinavian TCR Championship. His father, Kim Esbjerg, former Scandinavian Touring Car Championship independent winner, and he has been a junior class winner within the Scandinavian Championship this season past. We'll have a look at lap times in due course, but as I say, for a number of the drivers, there's quite a bit of track learning to go on here.
Well, we had a free practice session here yesterday, and it was Gilles Magnus in the Belgium entered Audi who was quickest in a 2 minutes 13.1, followed by the Republic of Ireland entry. Is it Jack Young? It is Jack Young. And in his Honda Civic KR7. The titles for these cars just longer and longer. There's the Audi hop, skipping and jumping over curbing. And
that's Sweden's Andreas Backman off the road.
Yeah, just backed out of it as a consequence.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what he was doing there, but the Audi RS3 off the road. Let's have a look. Massive
that's really locked up the front wheels. Easily done on a front-wheel drive touring car. I've done it when I was having a drive in a Nissan Primera back in the good old days of BTCC.
Yeah, now we ought to make this point, because although you might perceive Watty as a Grand Prix hero, as a GT broadcaster, he is of course a former voice of the British Touring Car Championship. So John, for this we are entirely in your hands.
I leave it to you, David. You're the incumbent these days, and even though you haven't got your sidekick there to keep you on the straight and narrow, I will bow to your greater touring car, or saloon car I would call it, knowledge.
Yes, because if you go back into the mist of time, it was the British Saloon Car Championship. Touring Car was a title that gained traction in Europe and was then brought into the British scene. But TCR, Touring Car Racing, has been an absolutely phenomenal success all around the globe. There are championships these days that have bought into Marcello Lotti's concept of the regulations. And there, going a little bit wide, is Teddy Claret. Now, this is the man that is potentially going to go fastest. Teddy Claret yesterday, however, was only 7th in the times, but the Frenchman in the Peugeot knows his way around here very, very well. He was racing here a couple of weeks ago. TCR integrated into the French Tourism Championship, not exclusively, but it is within that championship. There is a class for those cars.
And Peugeot as a brand has always been an excellent touring car product. And Claret, as we see, fastest sector 1, personal best sector 2, waiting to see what we're going to get in terms of a fast lap, a 2:14.6, which is about half a second away from the best that we saw last evening from Gilles Magnus in the Team Belgium Audi entry. As gap between, well, Gilles Magnus has actually gone second quickest, just 0.3 of a second behind. Magnus has gone quickest, or the time you can score. I think the Claret's time has been deleted because it is now Magnus who's been accredited. But look at this, 3 purples. Oh, dear me. And that's going to see a big, big gain. So 26, and that is the Spanish entry. I can't even put it, Gomez just to come in, now Cupra Leon. So that's significant. 2:13.5, getting very close indeed to those times we saw from Friday afternoon.
Right, there is 62 Jack Young, and this is Tom Coronel, who in a sense ought to be the favourite here, but as we discussed at Vallelunga back in 2019 at the FIA Motorsport Games, he didn't really deliver then because all these young guns came along and took a pop at him.
Well, he's my generation, sort of, but he's evergreen, he's effervescent, he just is an enthusiast, and I don't know what it is about Dutch racing drivers, but they're just such an ebullient race of enthusiasts and an enthusiasm for their motorsport. Even Jan Lammers still thinks he's a racing driver.
Well, indeed. Tom and his brother Tim, both racers. Their father was a racer, and I know I bored you with this story in the past, but we'll get it out of the way now. They are Tim Alpha and Tom Romeo Coronel, because Dad was a big Alfa Romeo enthusiast, and he named the sons accordingly.
I think that just sums up my comments. It's almost like a friend and a contemporary of ours who named one of his sons Enzo, and I think the other one might have been Emerson, I'm not sure. Yeah. And when you know their surname, you'd think those poor kids must have been beaten up at school, something rotten.
I know who you mean. You're looking here at Isidro Callejas, the 18-year-old Spaniard. He is the TCR Spain Championship leader right now, and he's going to go up to the top of the times, I would offer you, at the end of this lap, because Callejas here has done an absolute best and a personal best, and so as he comes down towards the Virage du Pont, let's see what he can offer out of this. A 2:14 from Gilles Magnus is currently the best. A 2:13.1 in FP1 yesterday, the absolute best. And Callejas Gomez then, Isidro Callejas up towards the timing line. He'll break the beam on a 2:13.502, goes fastest.
Yes, and that time hopefully he will stand. The previous lap he did, I think it had been deleted. We didn't get a notification of that, but I think it had been deleted. So the Spanish entry is quickest of all right now, and an appropriate Spanish car. Well, it's a VW ID brand, but it's a Cupra Leon Competizione TCR. Cracking little car. I used to rent those when I was going over to Ireland fishing. Oh, right. They were the best little hot rod you could ever have for Irish roads.
Now, Tom Coronel has arrived in the pit lane to have a conversation with the team, so that'll be a long stop, the loquacious Dutchman. And the car returned to the ComTu Racing mechanics, and a new set of the Pirelli tyres getting ready to go. Pirelli is a tyre not always used in TCR, so for many of them they're learning about a new rubber compound here.
You might think that's not a big issue, but in fact the construction and the philosophy of one tyre brand or another can affect your car's setup, handling, pretty significantly. So a very experienced driver, of course, Tom Coronel, from single-seaters to touring cars, GT cars on the way. Go back to the early 1990s. He was the Dutch Citroën AX Cup champion. He went out to win the Japanese Formula 3 championship. He won the F3 Masters at Zandvoort, Formula Nippon, you name it. He's been there, he's done it. Rafa Reis for Brazil sets off down the pit lane with his Cupra. The Swedish entry backman in that Audi again, Jan Andreas Wilhelm Bachmann. So they're within 0.6 of a second of the time set by the Spanish entry. So not too many purples appearing in our timing and scoring in any of the sectors as we are speaking. So they've all gone out and done a run. Coming in, we've got 20 minutes of the session remaining. There's one of the snappers around the circuit, looking appropriate with us. Where are the corks? Should be some corks hanging from that hat.
Talk about liveries at this event. This is the Team Hong Kong China entry. How about this for a colourful car for Andy Yan, who is the TCR Asia champion from 2016, one of the leading lights in touring car racing in that part of the world. And this, again, just illustrates how much effort the nations have made on the colour schemes.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just a visual treat.
Yeah. This car with a bit of help from KCMG, and on track, big bold move being made there by the Latvian entry, Valters Svidris.
Yes, another Audi. Audi's been very strong all through this TCR championship. Again, as you would imagine, a turnkey product from the factory, I think based in Ingolstadt in Germany. But I have always been a big fan of the Peugeot, the various 308s and 307s, and all the way back to the 205s. But certainly, I mean, these cars are virtually identical, although they're different manufacturers, and they are a restricted, I think, is a maximum budget for per car is 150,000. Is it euros, sterling, or whichever?
Euros, yeah. And they're all built to a set of regulations.
Yeah.
So yes, the manufacturers, as you say, whether it's Volkswagen, Honda, Audi, Peugeot, Cupra, you name it, they can create a car to TCR regulations. But those regulations, a bit like F4, are carefully constructed to try and prevent costs running away with themselves. And the manufacturers build the cars, the teams then run them, a bit like in GT3. That's Didrik Esbjerg that we saw earlier on in the Norway entry. We've still got 4 or 5 people yet to do a lap time, one of whom is the UK's Chris Smiley, this year's TCR UK champion, race winner in the British Touring Car Championship in the past, Chris Smiley, but he has yet to do a lap time in the Bert Taylor Restart Racing Run Honda. Right, Valter Zviedris, in the meantime, heads towards the completion of a lap, but he's down in the sectors this time around. The 2021-2022 Baltic TCR champion, there he is. So again, decorated driver, knows what he's doing in one of these cars.
Yeah, and another colourful livery on the side of the Latvian entry as we come down. Start, finish straight. And I mean, these cars, spoke to Chris Smiley yesterday. I said, what speed are you doing down the straight? I said, 100 mile an hour. He looked at me a bit askance and said, no, 110.
Oh, okay.
I think that they're doing about, in kilometres, about 240 kilometres out of turn 7 down to the first chicane. So
Quick enough.
370 odd horsepower from a 2-litre aspirated engine, pretty impressive.
As I was talking to Chris the other night, and I said, how many laps, if any, have you ever done around here? None. No, he said, never raced here, never been here, nothing. He said, I've done about 1 million laps on the sim, so we'll see whether that stands him in good stead. That is Gilles Magnus. Now, he was the silver medal winner in the Vallelunga Games. For that edition, it was points scored across races for the medals. This year, it's just the main race that gives you the medals, rather than it being slightly more confusing. So he was the winner of race 2, but only the silver medalist on the points scored. But he wants to be the gold medalist for Belgium this weekend.
Well, he's done a good job in the middle sector, as he's up by 0.3 of a second. So that should see Magnus leap up from 4th position, assuming he gets a clean run through this final sector, which looks like he's going to achieve. He's got no traffic to interfere, and under braking, normally the inside rear wheel, you see it just puffing a little bit of smoke. But anyway, Magnus comes across start-finish line in a few seconds' time. Seems an interminably long run, and he goes quickest with a 2:12.4, a second plus up from the time established by the 26 Spanish Cupra entry. There's the 62, which is currently down. That's Jack Young, who was second quickest yesterday evening in the Ireland entry. So that's a Honda entered by the Irish operation. So
yeah,
purple sector 1, green sector 2.
Looking good, absolutely. Yeah. ALM Motorsport running this car for Jack Young, who's been a race winner within TCR Europe this year, star of the British Renault Clio Championship a few years back.
Takes me back to my formative years growing up in Ireland. I come from the north. This car represents the Republic of Ireland. And as the case of all the entries here, you've got Ireland written on the left side, but ERA, which is the official title or name of the Republic of Ireland, ERA, E-I-R-E. So Jack Young comes across start finish and goes quickest.
Good effort, 2:12.175. That is the best lap of the weekend thus far then. So Jack Young into the 12s ahead of Gilles Magnus. As I say, he's raced here before, and he's a very, very accomplished driver, is Jack Young. And there, into the pit lane is Didrik Esbjerg, the Norwegian.
I assume that that's not an electric plug socket they plugged that car into.
Perish the thought.
I don't know what it was, but plugged
you,
into that rear. I mean, I know that they want to put a neutralizer and earthing. So looking inside, look at the size of those discs.
Yeah.
And the caliper.
I mean, again, these are serious bits of kit.
I mean, I know people get into a froth when they see a caliper that size on the front of a car. Of course, being front-wheel drive, the disc and caliper setup on the front is massive. On the rear, it's a skinny little small. I mean, it's just tiny.
It does illustrate, though, how far saloon car, touring car racing has moved from the early days when it was a road car Vertigo Racing. These are proper race cars built from the ground up. Chris Smiley, the TCR UK champion, member of the British Racing Drivers Club, heads up towards the timing line then for Restart Racing, Bert Taylor's team, and Chris Smiley goes through 10th fastest he is at the moment. Still learning about the circuit, but really up for the challenge. They've come straight from Snetterton, where they were racing last weekend, to Paul Ricard. The car ran actually in its national colours last weekend. They'd done the livery change in anticipation of being here, but yeah, he's been a race winner in TCR UK. He took the championship in that final weekend, 3 times a race winner in the championship. And Chris Smiley, who's a very feisty racer. He's a mini champion. He raced in the DTM supporting Sirocco Cup a few years ago. He was never far away from action in the British Touring Car Championship, and the more he learns about Paul Ricard, the faster he's going to get.
Well, I had a chat with him in the pit lane yesterday, and I said, which part of the problems do you come from? And what is that? Is that the drone?
I think that's little Nelly arriving, isn't it?
Oh, I haven't heard it. Anyway,
that's the
Chris Smiley lives on one side of the Belfast Lock, the north side, and I grew up on the south side. And roughly where I lived and where he was living, if we had a pair of binoculars, we would have been able to see each other's respective homes.
Good heavens.
Except I was about 50, I'm 50 more years older than he is, so I don't think his parents were even born at that time, let alone Chris.
Travis Hill for Canada, you're looking at in the pit lane. He's been racing in TCR in America in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Series this year, and he's raced in Radicals. Experienced saloon car driver is Travis Hill. Yet another nation on the grid, illustrating not only the spread of the FIA Motorsport Games, but also the spread that TCR has had around the globe. So Jack Young, Gilles Magnus, the top 2 there in the pit lane. Andy Yan for Hong Kong, China is on track 3rd. Netherlands 4th, Tom Coronel. Spain 5th, Isidro Callejas. And 6th is Andreas Backman, who is the Swedish entry.
So Hondas are 1st and 3rd quickest. Is that what the form book would have indicated?
Potentially. Although, what did we have yesterday? It was an Audi from a Honda, from an Audi, from an Audi, from a Cupra, from an Audi.
They're all meant to be identical performance, but certainly right now, it looks as if Honda have got the slight advantage.
Yeah.
There's Tom Coronel. Continue. What I noticed a lot in these cars, when they hit the brakes, how much dive there is in the front. You see it more in a touring car than maybe you see it in the GTs. Certainly you not see it in a single-seater.
Well, Coronel for the Netherlands is 4th fastest, but he's not going to be an improver on this lap. But, I mean, Tom has so much experience, so much racecraft. That's where it will score when we go racing. Again, they get 2 races. The qualifying race is 25 minutes plus a lap, and that sorts out the grid for the main race from which the medals come, and that's 30 minutes plus the regulation lap. Into the pit lane comes Tom Coronel.
France has dropped back. They were quickest initially. They're back in the pit lane. So they've dropped from being quickest all the way down to 8th. So Clarinet, I don't know whether he's done his best lap on, I think it was lap 5, and looking at the timing and scoring. So whether there's any more time available for the Peugeot 308 TCR to make its way up to the front of the grid, but right now it's still Jack Young and Gilles Magnus who are effectively controlling the front row of the grid.
Yeah, Teddy Claret for France, this year's and last year's French tourism champion, so you'd anticipate him to be up at the pointy end, and especially on home soil, as you look at here at Valters Zwiedris, the current Baltic TCR champion. And Zwiedris is 10th in the times. There for France is Teddy Claret in the Peugeot, ready to go back out.
Is that a fresh set of rubber going on, or is that the original set of tyres the car had when it came in? Looks like a tire, used tires come off. You checking the brake temperatures.
18 dry weather tyres for the weekend. Why would you waste them in free practice? Surely you'd want as good a set for qualifying in the 2 races. So
you would.
You know, this is only really about gaining information, isn't it? It's learning the track, it's getting the setup right for qualifying.
Well, there was a spare tyre lying by the right front, so whether that was there in the event it needed to be changed or whether it had been changed, as we now look and see where this car 18, this Australia entry, Aaron Cameron, also in a Peugeot 308 TCR, currently in 11th position for Australia.
So the former Victorian Formula Ford 1600 racer. He's driven in Toyota 86 series, in the V8 Utes in Australia, in the Hyundai Championship, the new Formula 5000 series that Chris Lambden's created, as well as TCR, and 11th in this year's championship. He was runner-up last year and third back in 2019. So Aaron Cameron knows his way around a touring car again. It illustrates it's a high-quality entry, this.
Listen, mate, you can't be a true racer unless you race a ute in Australia.
This is true. This is true. Always takes me back to being at the first Bathurst 24 Hours when Alan Grice was brought into the Channel 7 commentary box with us, and he'd been racing a ute and a Porsche over the course of the weekend. And one of my colleagues asked a rather intricate question about, you know, the differences between the Porsche and the ute, and without a moment's hesitation, Alan Grice said, "Ute carries more beer."
Well, Alan Grice is a true Aussie, believe me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
A legend in most people's eyes, and in a few people's eyes, a legend, but actually a genuine legend.
Briefly a politician, wasn't he? Aaron Cameron, in the meantime, is, where did we have him in the Times? 12th, learning about the circuit. There is the Swiss representative, Gabriel Lonsquinos. I say representative, technically they are athletes representing their nations. So Gabriel Lonsquinos goes through, and he's 14th fastest.
So nothing really moving around. The only thing is the 29 Argentine entry has moved up to third quickest. So again, that's another Honda Type R FK7. So the Honda's looking, you know, they've got a bit of the Audi is the sort of the meat in the Honda sandwich right now.
Andreas Bachmann going back out, third in TCR Scandinavia this year, and former rallycrosser as well as kart racer and ice racer, so he should be there or thereabouts, an experienced peddler. This is for Team Spain, a car that was quick to begin with but has faded a little for Isidro Callejas. And we've just had another change because Valters Svidris has gone up to fourth quickest now for Lithuania. Latvia, I should say. Latvia, forgive me. So here is Callejas, who is down in sector 1 and 2, so it's an outlap for him. Isidro Callejas up towards the timing line now.
So he's in 7th position, waiting to see whether he makes any change. Doesn't seem to have altered his position from his best lap was actually set on lap 2, if I'm reading that timing and scoring correctly, or his second lap on track. Here we go. Claret up 0.2 of a second on his previous best in sector 1. Currently down in 10th position. So waiting to see what sector 2 and sector 3. But he's up again a quarter of a second plus. So gaining, and how much is that going to make difference to his overall position? Might bring him up maybe a couple of positions up to 7th, maybe 8th.
Well, there is the France Peugeot that gets all sideways. Teddy Claret with a hop and a skip and a big slide is going to save it. Fantastic recovery.
And when you do that, you nail the throttle. In a front-wheel drive racing car, you don't back off, you nail the throttle, and that'll bring the car back into line, and that's what Claret did there.
Good save.
And he's lost time, obviously, that final sector, so all the work he did first 2 sectors to make those improvements, sadly, he'll be disappointed.
And I hope, to go back to an earlier point, it wasn't a new set of tyres they put on the car, because they've been wasted now. Here it is again. Up the curb. Round comes the back.
Do you think he was one of the drifters who's found the racetrack and not the drift track?
I was thinking the same thing, actually. Front-wheel drive drifting is a new concept. Right, so Teddy Claret was down in the last sector. Imagine our surprise. Over the line he goes. What did that cost him? It was a 2:15. He actually only lost about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, but he was 3.5 seconds down in that final sector.
Yeah.
So had he put it all together, that would have been a very good run from the Frenchman. So he has to reset, go again. Runs down to the chicane. At least he's got clear track. He's not having to consider anybody else around him. And the team all having a little... Look at the way it just drags that rear wheel. Well, it looked really scary stuff. But actually, it didn't probably cost them too much time. But we'll wait to see what timing and scoring is going to say when it comes up to the end of the first sector, just coming up to the chicane on the Mistral straight.
Well, it's a good effort by Teddy Claret in terms of commitment. It's not necessarily helping with the time. Gilles Magnus for Belgium, by the way, has gone back to the top now. So Gilles Magnus in number 16, and that's Andreas Bachmann off the road again. So he rejoins, but Andreas Bachmann off the road and back on again, and he has dropped to 8th in the times. Right, Gilles Magnus the fastest, but Jack Young for Ireland, quicker than anybody in the first sector. We're into the 2:11s now. That's Tom Coronel, who is down to 6th. But Jack Young, number 62 Honda, the Irish athlete, he's the one to look for now.
And he's responded to the pace of Gilles Magnus, currently quickest, the only driver who's managed to get into the 2 minutes 11 second time zone by about a few hundredths of a second, but it doesn't matter. So there is Jack Young, so personal best in the middle sector, so he's en route to challenge, but he's currently just under a quarter of a second, just like over a quarter of a second, runs slightly wide coming through scene, so nothing left on the table for the Irish driver into Le Bousset. Doesn't want to run too wide in the exit, gets it clean on the exit now. It will be that last sector to see whether he can get a further green sector, ideally like a purple, to put the Irish entry again to the head of the timing and scoring.
So the Belfast-born racer, Clio Cup champion twice in the UK, race winner in TCR Europe this season. He's racing the Italian TCR Championship as well. He's made quite a name for himself in the TCR arena. Comes out of the Virage du Pont. He's going to be able to squeeze at least one more lap out of the session as well. But for Jack Young, with an absolute best and a personal best, where's he going to be at the end of the lap as he breaks the beam? He will go through second fastest, lost out a bit in that last sector. A 2:12.4 means that as Gilles Magnus is into the 11s, he's down in the times.
Yeah, that last sector really, I don't know where he lost the time, but that's where the time was lost. And so what can he do? He's got essentially one lap remaining as we watch him down over the back end, locking up that rear, but gets the nose in and makes the transition. Look at the way he swings the Honda around. It's like a little pendulum, just pivoting around the front wheels. Now, lots of racing drivers would go, shock horror, I can't drive a car like that, but Jack Young can.
Now, that lap, which was a 2:12, was taken away. So I think there was a track limit offence on that lap, which therefore has gone against Jack Young. We don't have access to that message line screen, but I'm offering you the thought that track limits is why the lap has disappeared. But he's back on the money with an absolute best in the first sector. But look at all the traffic. Tom Coronel up to 3rd. One of the drivers he's had to negotiate for the Netherlands. But here for Ireland, Jack Young closing on back markers, closing on traffic ahead of him. He will possibly squeeze another lap out of the session at the end of this. But Jack Young now having another real push.
And he's got that Honda dancing around the front end. I mean, he's not concerned with the back end's doing. As long as he got the front end pointed in to the apex, he'll handle the rest of the whatever the Honda's offering up. So again, loses time in that middle sector, half a second down, and of course traffic ahead of him. He might as well back out because that's going to destroy whatever's remaining in this lap. There's no improvement available for Jack Young, but he can get across start-finish line and go again for one final time before checkered flag comes out. He needs to get ahead of this traffic to make sure that he has got the opportunity to get a clear lap, final lap for the Irish entry. It's a Canada Audi directly in front of him, and he's backed out of it as he coming into the pits.
He is, that's his session down, isn't it?
Yeah, he is.
Again, it is only a free practice period, so the requirement to be the fastest is relatively meaningless, and he has proved in the sectors that he can get it all hooked up. Here for Sweden, with the flag imminent now, is Andreas Bachmann up towards the timing line. And the Swedish car has yo-yoed a bit in this session, but Andreas Bachmann is 9th as he comes up towards the timing line. He will squeeze one more lap out of it. Bachmann goes through, but Belgium looking good, and Gilles Magnus, given how well he's gone in the previous editions of the Motorsport Games, you could argue should not be a surprise. He was in the WTCR series last year, but of course this year has been a GT3 driver, so adapting again to TCR machinery. Checkered flag is out, session is at an end then. And Andreas Bachmann will take the flag this time. Jack Young had pitted, Tom Coronel pits. So Belgium, Ireland, Holland, and then Argentina. Ignacio Montenegro, 4th. And there is Jack Young out of the car. So the tall Belfast driver takes off his helmet, balaclava, and can reflect on that session.
Well, one thing's clear to me, that Jack Young has certainly got the pace, and he's got a quick car as well, so it's just a matter of getting it all together when it matters, as we look at the man who has ultimately dominated this practice session. Checkered flag is out, session is over.
And that's Gilles Magnus then, who was quicker by 0.233 of a second. So Gilles Magnus, Jack Young, Tom Coronel, the top three. And the fight is going to be between those drivers when we go racing. They will have both races tomorrow. We've got qualifying coming up later on today, just after 6 o'clock. And Gilles Magnus for the ComTU team heads back to the garage. Go and have a look at his data. And a job well done for Gilles Magnus by a fifth of a second, the fastest at the end of the second free practice period. Others still to take the flag, including their Valter Zviedris for Latvia, who is fifth in the times, got himself ahead of Andy Jan in the end. Is there anybody, though, that looks like they're going to improve on this last lap? No, I think the majority, if they've not taken the flag, are on a slow lap anyway, so I can't see the order being changed much. Eat my cheese is the legend on the back of Tom Coronel's crash helmet because of his cheese sponsor. And the third place driver in the time, the Dutchman, walks away. What about Teddy Claret, who's been the source of much spectacular driving over the course of the session? He's going to end up ninth, has ended up ninth. In fact, he's taken the flag. Chris Smiley improved towards the end, got himself up to 12th for the UK. But Teddy Claret then takes to the Mistral Straight for the last time. We'd had another spin, as I think we'd seen from Andreas Bachmann, so he was in the wars a little bit during that session. But Gilles Magnus, Jack Young, Tom Coronel going to be the top three heading into the qualifying session to come later on in the day. On track also, there will be another GT Cup race, the medal decider, and our Formula 4 qualifying race before we get to touring car action this afternoon. So Gilles Magnus fastest across both of the free practice sessions, with this one being the quicker of the two. He is over a second faster today than yesterday, and Gilles Magnus is with Gemma Scott in the pits.
Gilles, I think you've come into this weekend as a firm favourite, and they're topping the timings.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as a favorite, I wouldn't say. I think there's some great names, so but one of the favorites, let's call it like that. No, we started off well with a P1 in FP1, now P1 in FP2. Good pace, was a really good lap. I cannot do anything more than that. I see Jack Young still improves his Sector 1, so he's still got some potential, but so it's not done yet. Quali won't be easy. I think he will be very strong on one lap, but I'm confident we have a good race pace, so feeling confident.
We'll see you later on in quali. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Cheers.
So, well done to Gilles Magnus. He is the fastest, so it is Belgium from Ireland from the Netherlands, the top three. Argentina 4, Latvia 5, and Hong Kong, China rounding out the top 6, with Spain, Sweden, France and Canada to complete the top 10. Gilles Magnus 4, Belgium ahead of Jack Young for Ireland and Tom Coronel for the Netherlands, the top 3. And they're definitely going to be the 3 drivers to beat once we get to that qualifying session coming up a little bit later on in the day, with the 2 races to go tomorrow. The qualifying race determining the grid for the main race giving you the medals. Slowest in that session was the Ukraine entry of Pavlo Chabanov, the Audi of Volcano Motorsport, just behind the Italian car of Giacomo Giamandi. And they're going to have to find a big chunk of time to get onto terms with Gilles Magnus when we get to qualifying. The Paul Ricard circuit, very, very busy, because not only do we have activity on the track, there is esports here, there is karting, there's karting slalom, there is drifting. It's also the base for the rally, which is off in the roads of Saint-Baume, and you can see just how many people are here as well, with the car parks getting busier all the time. So there's more action on track to come. Touring car qualifying will be this afternoon. Can Gilles Magnus take pole? Join us later to find out. Bye for now.
Gilles Magnus putting in a great performance for Belgium in the touring car free practice, but it's worth noting also that Jack Young is the sole competitor for Ireland, so he's going to be doing everything he can in qualifying later on to do Ireland proud. Now, I'm very pleased to have in the studio with me Felipe Messer, the president of the FIA Drivers' Commission and former president of karting. So Felipe, for you to be here amongst all these different disciplines, young and old, it's a great event, and it must be great for you to see.
Well, it's fantastic to be here in the FIA Motorsport Games. In a beautiful place. We are almost November and the weather is amazing.
We're
here
in
Paul Ricard. And you have everything here. You have many different categories. So even for the fans, to be here, to go for watch the karting, and then you watch the touring car, the GTs, the drifting, the e-games. So you have everything in the same place. So it's just fantastic event. And I think one of the most important things also that you put all the countries together. And I think that's really, you are here to do everything you can as a driver, for your country, for your flag. And also to put all of the ASNs together for FIA, I think is a great opportunity, and it's a really, really nice to be part of it.
Yeah, so let's talk about the countries, because, we've got some countries, Belgium, Spain, that are competing in 14 or 16 of the disciplines, and then others, Japan, that's just one. There's a real range in the level of motorsport within those countries.
This is what we want for the future. So most of the countries with 20 people, then I am sure we will arrive on that level. To put all of the countries together in the good level, similar level, one against the other, and this is the idea for the future. So definitely now we have many countries that have many drivers, many people participating, some others a bit less, but I'm sure it will improve a lot. Looking how nice is the event for motorsport and for all of the people that is really passionate, for the races.
For a young driver, we've got a lot of karting happening today. For a young driver to be here on this platform, it's very important for them at the start of their career.
It's very important for the young driver. It's very important also for all of type of drivers, because you are here to race for your country. And I think that is something different. It's something that gives you even extra motivation, or to try everything you can to show yourself also to your country, to really push hard in the right way, but also to be proud for what you're doing for your flag. And I think, you mentioned really well, the young drivers, this is a great opportunity for them, because you start to show to your people, that you have an opportunity, to be maybe one day a Formula 1 driver or professional driver in different categories. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, we can see some of the karting footage here.
Yeah, we had one of the junior heats earlier on today. Fantastic battles all the way through the field. Have you had much chance to get out and look around at the different events that are going on over the last couple of days?
Yesterday, being around, to see many different categories. Karting, I was there. Also, drifting is unbelievable. How nice is the drifting, even for the fans. They all there also watching. It's so nice, because I didn't have so much experience, by watching the drifting and understanding all the rules, what you have to do. Today is the final. I will be there for sure, to watch the big final, but also many others. You have the slalom for the karting, which is very, very nice, because you can bring so many different people, not even professional drivers, people that is here, to participate for your country, but it's a complete different type of racing in a way. So, and it's as we were just saying before, so you have so many different disciplines, so many different sports here, that is so nice to go one after the other, to watch the races and all the competition around.
I think the karting slalom is a bit like the esports, where it's so easy for people to organise and to put that type of event on back in countries that don't have the facilities, like even having a racing circuit isn't available. So having the availability of esports and the slalom, karting slalom, it just makes it very accessible for everybody.
And I think it's also important because you promote the karting,
Yes.
you know, in the countries, even countries that maybe they don't have the championships. They are not really so into the karting or many different sports, racing sports. So I think that's a very, very good promotion to start, you know, to grow the races in many different disciplines in these countries.
Yeah, we won't talk on it too much just now, but Bahamas, for one, you know, they've never karted before and they've got a team here. It's just lovely to see.
And they have a massive team, so it was
Yeah.
so nice to see them in the opening ceremony. They really motivated. They're really happy to participate here in the FIA Motorsport Games. And it's also nice for us, I mean, to see that you see countries really happy to participate, happy to be here first. Then they will try everything they can, you know, to win or to be competitive. But it's a very nice message, you know, for all of the other countries at the end, you know.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully this weekend will inspire other countries that haven't got entries this year to come back for the following years, because they can see how much enjoyment there is from this weekend, and hopefully that message, like you say, will be out there for these people to just go, yeah, that we can do it. We can maybe just start with esports, then the karting slalom.
It's a great message. It's a great message, you know, for us and for all of the fans and for all of the people to understand how important is this event, you know, and how important it is to keep growing, you know, to keep bringing more people, more countries, more ASNs. And I think, you know, when you put all of these countries together, all of these people together in the good championships, racing, so many different types of races, I think that's really a good message for all of us.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about from the karting world particular is there's a big focus on bringing more females into motorsport in general, but obviously we have to start at grassroots. And from your time in karting to now, are you seeing that growth?
Yes, but not enough.
Okay.
So I think the karting is the most important event, you know, for the girls to start. So we need definitely more girls, kids at the end, you know, to start in the karting, because at the end the dream is to have a woman, you know, in Formula One, you know. So this is the dream for all of us. But I think we need to improve even more, you know, the numbers of girls, you know, that is racing in the karting, because that is the when you, I mean, you know, pretty well, I mean, how you create and how you learn and how you prepare yourself, you know, to be really a top professional driver in the different championships in the future. So I think still we need to keep pushing that, you know, because that's the most important thing at the end.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, with the mixed entries for the endurance racing here at the karting as well, it's vital that continues to make sure that we do keep introducing the girls into the lower level of the sport, the grassroots of the sports, to bring them through, because it's a numbers game. The more girls that are doing it, the more chance you're going to find the exceptional ones, like you do in the boys that go all the way up to Formula One. So if we get more girls in there, that's going to make a big difference.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was lovely to speak to you, and have a good games.
Yes, we will have, for sure. It will be a nice afternoon, many different championships, even finals. So, yeah, I will go around, you know, to have some fun and to enjoy these great FIA Motorsport games.
Enjoy the drifting.
I will.
Right, now we have more karting. It's the Karting Sprint Senior, and it's their qualifying Heat 1.
Sprint Senior qualifying heat number 1 is on the run for their 2 formation laps. So let's talk it through the grid. For Belgium, Ellie Goldstein. For Spain, Nacho Tunion. For Sweden, Joel Bergström. For Denmark, Valdemar Agerholm. For Hungary, Balac Jirancic. For Israel, Ariel Elkin. For Chile, Gustavo Suarez. For Sri Lanka, Yvan David. For Germany, Max Schlemer. For Hong Kong, Jukka Pol. For Austria, Oscar Wirtz. For Estonia, Carmen Krav. For Poland, Adrian Labuda. For Slovakia, Matis Borec. For Lithuania, Andrei Sardiles. For Venezuela, I should say, Andrei Sardiles. For Brazil, Joao Maranhão. For India, Kyle Kumaran. For Barbados, Callum Maloney. For the Ukraine, Dimitru Moravchik. For Indonesia, it is Kainan Sini. And then for Lithuania, it is Adrijas Rimkevicius. For Malta, it is Lucas Pace. For Portugal, Francisca Queiroz. For Nigeria, Philip Gana. For Costa Rica, Gabriel Kawa. For For Mozambique, Christian Boucher. For Australia, Ava Anagnostadis. For Panama, it is Valentin Flamini. For Chinese Taipei, it is Ting Chu Chun. And finally, the back of the grid for Kuwait, it is Farhad Al-Khaled, who didn't get a lap time in qualifying, so will be charging through from the back.
30 drivers. As for the juniors going on to the track, 30 drivers, 30 nations from all four corners of the world. And that young man in the lead from Belgium, Ellie Goldstein, putting everybody on pace, putting the tires up to temperature as well. So there's a couple of talents out there that we've seen fighting at the forefront of international karting for the past few seasons. Some of them maybe that we don't expect at the forefront. This will be interesting to see which of those drivers, which of those wild cards, so to speak, will be able to make a difference. One name interesting as well in the pack is Callum Maloney, the brother of Zane Maloney, who is going to make his way up to Formula 2 for next season.
Time to go racing then in the first of our sprint senior qualifying heats. It is Belgium on pole, from Spain in second, Sweden, Denmark, Hungary and Israel giving chase. Let's go racing here at Paul Ricard, and it's a perfect start for Belgium into the first corner. Looks as though Sweden are going to get there to second place. Is everybody going to get through? Just about. It's a little bit of a nudge and top through the first couple of corners, but everybody's managed to make it through without too much incident until they get to turn 3, and we've got 3 karts facing in the wrong direction at the top of the hill. So already there are some problems, and it's India's Carl Kumaran in front of Mozambique's Christian Boucher and Panama's Valentin Flamini. So they're all in trouble. There they are. The only two that are left on the scene are Panama and Mozambique. So Valentin Flamini and Christian Boucher, unfortunately their races are already over. Looks as though Flamini was trying to get going again. I'm not sure how successful that's going to be, because you have to push yourself to get going. You don't have a starter motor. You have to keep the car in motion to actually get it up and running. But it's Belgium out in front of Sweden and Spain at the start. Yellow flags are waving because of the incident at the top of the hill. But there's already some good drama, as Suarez of Chile has got into 4th place in front of Elkin of Israel and Juranchik of Hungary.
One lap completed, 15 to go, as Goldstein was able to manage from pole position to keep the lead. But for how long? There's a question. The chase is on. Joel Bergström and Nacho Tunan, Sweden and Spain, may be willing to work together to try to put the pressure on Belgium. This is your top 3. Pulling away already from the second wagon. You can see them into turn number 11, diving through sector number 3, away from Gustavo Suarez, indeed, taking Israel from Ariel Elkin as well in 5th. Then we have Balas Juransky from Hungary in 6th. This is your top 3, running up another lap, and further back Ariel Elkin is losing patience already into turn number 1. The young driver from Israel who's been shining in Italy this season with the TB Kart Factory team. Let's see what he can do. Ariel Elkin putting the pressure as we keep an eye on top 3. Elkin on the outside is going to go, certainly trying to go for place number 4 outside of turn number 7. Let's see if that did happen for Ariel Elkin. I think he can close, and he's going to keep on attacking the young driver from Israel as Goldstein keeps it steady in the lead.
Oh, little bit of a nudge there from Tunion. He tried to get a little too close to Bergström. So the Spaniard actually nudges the back bumper of the Swedish driver, Joel Bergström. And Joel Bergström manages to keep hold of second for the moment, but Tunion so nearly threw it all away there. I really want to see that again, because he came so close to binning himself out of 3rd position completely, and that would have given Gustavo Suarez and Ariel Elkin the chance to move forward. So hopefully we can have another look at that moment, as Tunion almost threw himself out of the race there. But out in front, Ellie Goldstein is very much following in his grandfather's footsteps. Francois Goldstein, the 5-time world champion, is going to be so proud of Ellie Goldstein here, putting on such an amazing effort. And a little bit of a run wide there from Tunion. That's at exactly the same point. But Bergström has started to catch up to Goldstein now. Goldstein is still out in front. We look back, and here is the battle between Elkin, who is now in front of Gustavo Suarez. So the Israeli has managed to get through into 4th position. And fair play to Ariel Elkin. He is one of the stars of karting as he comes up through the ranks. He's been fast in direct drive. He's been super fast in gearbox. The kid can handle anything.
Yeah, and then anything indeed. It's always very proud when we talk to him representing Israel on the international karting scene. But while doing so, making his way up to 4th, he lost a pile of time, 2.2 seconds down from Nacho Tunan in 3rd place. Joel Bergström from Sweden is putting the fastest lap in this race. Look at the battle that we have right now, the 2:01 on your picture. This is for the back, this is Oscar Wurst for Austria, all the way down to 10th place, battling along with Jevan David from Sri Lanka, as well as Adrian Aduba. There's a lot of move going on outside of the last turn. Look at them, the 2:12 side by side. We're back with the 2:14 and the 2:09. These are your leaders, actually. Eli Goldstein from Belgium still in the lead, but Joel Bergström is adding some more pressure corner after corner. He's waiting for the good moment at the end of lap number 6 with the fastest lap in the bag. Goldstein is going defensive already, can kick on the throttle. Let's see if he's going to be able to do something.
I think we've lost Yu Kapo. I think we've lost the young driver from Hong Kong. There he is. So I'm afraid that is Yu Kapo, who has had a big problem. He was running up in the top 10, and I'm afraid his race just ended. Didn't quite see what happened to him, but I'm afraid his race is over for the moment. Look how close Bergström has got to Goldstein. This is Belgium versus Sweden, and Bergström really feels he's got a chance here to get through on Goldstein. You've got to remember that Goldstein does not have as much experience on an original kart compared to his programs in X30 in Europe, so this is a big knife edge for Goldstein to play with here. Bergström knows the OK kart very well indeed, so this is very much his bread and butter. He has a great chance here. The only advantage that Goldstein has, of course, is that neither driver knows this circuit very well, so obviously everybody has been learning all through the weekend. So can Bergström of Sweden make his attack on Goldstein of Belgium in the lead of this race? It's looking very tight and very tenuous between both drivers, but as they come up over the top of the hill, Goldstein is doing his best to hang on from Bergström.
And the question is where to pass, where to make that overtaking maneuver happen, because the first two sectors, as you can see, there's barely any heavy braking point. You know, there's very fast flowing, the drivers keeping the line, shutting all the doors, and there's pretty much nowhere for those OK karts to find a place to go through unless they can make it happen in sector number 3. This is where the hairpins are, this is where the heavy braking points are. And this could be certainly coming down to turn number 11, this particular one, as well as 12 and 13. This is where actually something could be made. Hey, look at Joel Bergström from Sweden, how fast. Then, and the 208 out of this race. Unfortunately, this is Chung Ting Chu. Unfortunately, it was out of this race. I think it just happened outside of turn number 2.
Yeah, Ting Chu Chun, unfortunately for Chinese Taipei, is now out of the race as well. So that's 4 retirements now. Ting Chu Chun, Yu Kapo, Christian Boucher and Valentin Flamini all out of the race. There is a very disappointed racer at the sidelines there. I think that is Ting Chu Chun. So problems there. But we can see how close Sweden are to taking the lead in this one. And of course, in both junior and senior sprints, every driver gets 3 qualifying heats where they obviously set the grid for the final. And they are 16 laps in length in the senior sprint. It's a long qualifying heat. They come up over the top of the brow. Belgium leading, Sweden second, from Spain, Israel, Denmark, Chile, then Austria, Sri Lanka, Germany and Hungary in the top 10 at the moment, with Estonia's Carmen Krav doing her best to work herself into the top 10, and she's been going beautifully all weekend, to be fair. She has a good chance here of cracking the top 10. But this is going to be a very tough battle, a very tough race to bid for, and Bergström is absolutely resolute. The Swede wants to win.
Yeah, the trouble is, even though he's very, very fast on the start-finish straight, this isn't long enough for him to try to attack on turn number 1, for instance. And he's keeping it steady, he's keeping himself very, very close to Eli Goldstein, who has nothing else to do to keep his line as well, to go defensive. He's not looking over his shoulder on the way back to the fast finish straight. This is lap number 11, 10 completed, and they've never been so close. They've never been so close. Belgium against Sweden. Look at Bergström clipping the curb, going aggressive, trying to find a bit of extra pace and maybe destabilize Goldstein in some of those corners where it's quite impossible to make an overtaking. But that could be something that Spain and Nacho Tunon might be willing to do as well. They're waiting for the good moment. They observe from a distance, 0.4 of a second, what might happen in front of him. As for the rest, we have Valdemar Algemov in 5th, Oscar Wurst from Austria making himself up to 6th in front of Gustavo Suarez. Jevan David from Sri Lanka is 8th from Schleimer from Germany, as well as Balas Ransky from Hungary running up the top 10. 5 places dropped, unfortunately, for him.
So here comes the battle for the gold medal. Goldstein, Bergström and Tunon. Of course, very early days in the weekend. The gold medal won't actually be won until the final tomorrow. But these 3 qualifying heats for each driver are to set the starting grid for that final. So you've got to be very calm, very focused. You have to be quite disciplined. The big question is, does Bergstrom go for the psychological upper hand by making the move on Ellie Goldstein, or does he consolidate by sitting behind him and thinking, well, 2 points are not that many to carry? Of course, you score reverse points in the world of karting. Oh, he's going for the move! He makes the bid on the inside line of the hairpin. Beautiful launch there from Joel Bergstrom, and Sweden hits the front. So Sweden takes the lead then in qualifying heat number 1 for Sprint Senior. So it's Sweden from Belgium and Spain.
And here we go, the first move, the one we had been expecting for quite a while, a couple of laps. And now it's all down to Goldstein and Tunon to try to respond to the attack of Joel Bergström from Sweden. But look at him actually go, pulling a bit of a gap, a couple of meters from himself and the opposition. That could be the decisive move, as we have now less than 3 laps before the checkered flag of this race. Joel Bergström from Sweden with the Forza Racing colors on his racing suit. That's the team he's competing with in the FIA Karting Championship. But representing Sweden this time around for the Olympics of Motorsport. Ariel Elkin down in 4th from Israel. 1.8 second. Elkin has been trying as well from a distance. You can see him coming now in a minute. Yeah, there he is. Ariel Elkin has been trying to catch up as well with the top 3. Not quite able to do so. This was Oscar Wurz from Austria, the 201. But Elkin has been pushing like never before, 1.4 seconds. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that for him, the race is going to be a little bit too short to try to catch up quite enough to stabilize the top 3, but still a good performance, and what are names to keep in mind for the rest of the weekend, as Goldstein now is having to go defensive against Nacho Tunan. So we went from Sweden against Belgium to Belgium against Spain for the battle for second.
And for those who are watching the FIA Motorsport Games and potentially karting for the first time, asking that question, Oscar Wurz, any relation to Alex, the Le Mans 24-hour winner and Formula 1 driver? Certainly is. He is the younger of his 2 sons. Charlie Wurz, of course, is racing in the F4 category for Austria here as well at Paul Ricard. So a fabulous battle for the 2 boys. Look at Joel Bergstrom. He's just disappeared in front of Goldstein and Dugnon. He felt, I'm confident with this. I know the kart. I know the situation. I don't know the circuit very well, but then nor does anybody else. So I've got the mentality here. I can make this happen. I've got the physicality for an okay sprint race. So Bergstrom